in front of Judge Clark. On the line right now is Professor Allan Saxe. He is a political science professor with the University of Texas at Arlington, Poli-Science. And right now, the gloves are off. The new communications director, which, by the way, Professor, good morning. I've got him here now. Good morning.
Isn't politics wonderful?
Oh, Lordy, it's crazy. From local all the way up to what we're going to be talking about here this morning.
I've always believed that a lot of people who dabble in politics, it's a game to them. Literally, it's a game. I've known people like that.
Yeah, I know.
If they weren't playing that game, it'd be another game.
Well, speaking of the games, communications director Anthony Scaramucci, the Mooch.
Oh, boy.
He hasn't started yet. But don't anybody tell him, because apparently no one told him, because he has started. And
he
this
should have known what magazine he was talking to.
Oh,
I'm not very bright, but I know the New Yorker magazine is not necessarily pro-Trump by any means. And he said he was talking off the record. Don't ever believe you're talking off the record.
Yeah, and I got to tell you,
New Yorker magazine.
But this guy seems to be, I don't see him as a victim. Everything that comes out of this guy's mouth seems to be strategized, and he knows what he's doing. And I got to tell you, with the profanity and all the way he did this and the ripping of Reince Priebus, don't you think he's really created a distraction here? Nobody's talking about Russia right now. We're all talking about this stuff.
It's a very mean kind of a language. But when people talk about the intrigue in the White House and the bitterness and some of the statements by President Trump, I always reply, have you heard of Lyndon Johnson? You know, Lyndon Johnson made all of this look like baby talk. His language was horrible, and his actions were also horrible.
Yeah.
The difference was it was behind the scenes.
Right.
And historians have talked about that lately, but it was really bad stuff. But that did not excuse what had happened yesterday with Mr. Scaramucci and his tirade against Steve Bannon, also in the White House, and Vance Priebus, the chief of staff. It is literally White House intrigue and needs to be stopped, because yesterday there was a big vote on the Obamacare health care bill, and it remains intact, with Senator John McCain being one of the main votes.
I do have to ask you, Professor, when all of this is going on, and this has been one big criticism of the president and his staff. The biggest thing in the world is happening right now. Wouldn't you want to be totally focused and have all the talk and all of the pressure going on Congress for this health care repeal?
I have a different theory.
It may not have done any difference, though, in this one respect. I have a theory about everything. And one of my theories is that even major policy questions are decided or one way or the other based on personal feelings, animosities, friendships, whatever. And when the candidate, Donald Trump, said to Senator McCain during the campaign, said about him, I don't believe he's a hero. I said, oh, my gosh, what are you saying, Mr. Trump?
Yeah.
And that settled, I think, into Senator McCain's psyche. And that's understandable as a human. He didn't say that he was hurt, but I think he was. I think it came out last night.
Well, that's interesting, because I have a guy, Rob, saying here, piping in, Congress needs to have the same health care we do. I totally, we talked about this earlier, totally agree with that. But also saying John McCain just took one final shot at Donald Trump, plain and simple.
He did. That's exactly a good way to put it. And Donald Trump brought it on himself. He should know how to handle people. And it's a very personal thing. But this is not the first time there's been intrigue and bitterness between individuals in the White House and in Congress. When people think of the administration of John Kennedy and the Vice President, Lyndon Johnson, Bobby Kennedy and Lyndon Johnson, it was a hatred like none other.
Maybe
in fact, it was terrible and deep, so deep that after that terrible assassination in Dallas, a lot of people believed it was LBJ. I never believed that, but it shows you how deep the animosity was.
Yeah. I'd ask you.
Hobeika tells me I'm politically naive, and I probably am. I would like to think that John McCain voted the way he did because he thought it was best, not because he was trying to grind his axe.
I agree. I wonder if the cancer, Professor, listen, we've seen this with other legislators and congressmen through the years, political figures through the years. When you're facing something like cancer, you're oftentimes your mind gets changed a little bit. You look at things differently.
still believe he would have probably voted the very same way. The animosity between those two men is just very, very deep, and I don't think anything could bridge it very much. But I place most of the blame on Donald Trump at this point. He should know, you injure people by these statements. Although I got to give applause to Ted Cruz from my own state. He voted yesterday for repeal, and a lot of people remember Donald Trump called him every name in the book, too. Called him Lion Ted. But Ted Cruz didn't get over it, but he was able to put those personal issues off to the side, which very few of us are able to do.
All right. Professor Allan Saxe, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. I'm going to give you my theory just quickly. I disagree with really what Professor Allan Saxe, the road he's going down here is. This is about their constituents. It's about this bill being a horrible bill, and it is. It was never intended to be the bill they were going to actually vote on. These guys are worrying about themselves, not the President of the United States. I don't think the President plays any role. And as for Scaramucci, this communications director, I think he's created this story knowing full well that the health care repeal was not going to pass, and this was the distraction.
This has been the process they've followed. You know, every time there's going to be a major failure of something, there's a distraction, you know, of something else that really doesn't mean very much.
Yeah.
So what? He said bad things about Reince Priebus and Steve Bannon. Those guys are probably saying bad stuff about him. They're just not stupid enough to not say off the, you know, this is not on the record.
Yeah.
Okay. And you know, from my perspective, just watching this, it's just been. I mean, this guy is dangerous.
Scaramucci?
No, yeah, Scaramucci is dangerous. I mean, first of all, he's not even employed by the U.S. government at this point. It's just
he's not started yet.
It's bizarre.
Yeah, why is he out? Yeah.
But I'll say one thing: he speaks the way Trump wants to speak.
No doubt. He is Donald Trump.
He's like Donald Trump if Donald Trump could get four words put together.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not. I was. Oh no, I'm not going to go.
Well, sorry, but it's true.
Yeah. All right. Stand
you might have
by.
to bleep two of them.
I want to. It is Baseball Hall of Fame weekend, and we do want to talk about great things going on down at the Hall of Fame. But Hobica opened up a can of worms, and we got to get into it. And it's the steroids issue, and Joe feels no matter what you do wrong, you should be able to still go to the Hall of Fame. That's what he thinks, and we'll talk about it when we can. That is what you think, right?
By the way, is there like a good guy wing there? I just was curious. I mean, you know, is it based on performance and stats, or is it based on you being a nice fella?
I'll ask you that about the courtroom and a jury. Is it based on on the evidence?
Sometimes it's both. Sometimes it's one thing or the other.
It could be you're just.
But the reality is that they don't have a wing there for best like pancake breakfast guy. The bottom line is
this is about stats.
Correct.
Okay, and what if the enhancement changes the stats? We'll get into it when we come right back.
You should be judged against your era.
Hold on. Let me just come on. Joe, this is my courtroom. Okay.
Oh, I just thought you called me.
You're out of line, Joe.
I just thought you called me in so that I could sit and listen to everybody.
Have we stopped you from talking? I don't think we have.
No.
I do not think we have. What I'm saying is,
in the middle of the Craig Muter thing while I was lighting him up.
It's Muter.
Whatever.
Yes, because we brought him on to talk about the weekend.
I'm sorry.
Not to ambush him.
I wasn't ambushing him.
Oh, please. You hijacked the whole thing. Here's the thing.
I didn't get a chance to, but I would have.
No, because he's the guest. I have to give him...
Aren't I a guest, too? Don't we all eat at the same table, Bill?
No, we don't. We're not allowed to eat at your table. We'll come back. Hold tight. We can't afford it, Joe. We can't afford it.